All right, so we are ready to do our notes for Trig Day 2. And at this time, you have a calculator that has sine, cosine, and tangent on it. If you're using a graphing calculator, you are set in the degree mode. And so you take this note sheet and flip it over to the back. We're ready for the first example. So we are going to use our SOHCAHTOA mnemonic device. Okay, we're still using SOHCAHTOA, and this is the type of mathematics we need to solve our unit problem. So we have an angle given to us. We have one side and a missing side. And we're on a right triangle, so we can use trigonometry. So make sure you're able to see the screen here. Let's go ahead and get started. So on this particular picture, we have a 52-degree angle, and we need to label now what sides we have. So when we label the sides, we always start with the hypotenuse. From 52, x is the opposite, and this side down here is the adjacent. And so what trig function could we use? So we have two sides here. We have 15 and we have x. What trig function uses the O and the H? Which of our three?
So.
Good. So is from SOHCAHTOA, and that means sine. So the sine of 52 degrees, okay, we just talked about this. The sine of the angle must equal what?
52.
The sine of 52 must equal, good, the opposite over the hypotenuse, O over H. See how that works? So SOH, that tells you your numerator and your denominator. It's like same thing that we did yesterday, except we actually had a value. We have a value now for the angle, and either the numerator or the denominator is missing. Okay? So, and I told you on Tuesday, this is all we're doing except for one more step. We're either going to multiply or divide to get x by itself so that we can solve or we can use our calculator. So we need x by itself. Right now the 15, it says x divided by 15. What's the opposite of divide by 15? Multiply. So we're going to multiply both sides by 15 to get x by itself. So this is just like solving equations in the Overland Trail unit. Okay? And now this is what you get to type into your calculator. So in your calculator, you're going to type 15 times the sine of 52. And I'm going to show you a helpful hint here. Let me go ahead and make sure that I'm in degree mode. So if you're using that graphing calculator, what did we say our problem was? 15 times the sine of 52. So your calculator opens up a parenthesis here for you. You don't have to close it because we're not typing anything behind here. So if I hit enter, it shows me that the side length that I was missing for the side of that triangle is 11.8. And we're going to round these to the nearest tenth. One decimal place on all these side lengths to the nearest tenth. Now, let's say, ladies and gentlemen, you typed sine of 52. If you type sine of 52 and you still need to hit times 15, you must close the parenthesis and then hit times 15. So I don't want you to make that mistake. I personally don't want to make this mistake, so I always multiply out front, because if you don't, you're going to get the wrong answer. And I'll show you what would happen. So if I don't put that parenthesis there and I hit enter, that is clearly not the right answer. Okay? So you need to, the calculator just took the sign of whatever 52 times 15 is. All right, so you have to close the parenthesis, but again, I recommend just using this up here. So enter the number in first. So we should enter that 15, so that leaves us then with our answer again of 11.8 in our calculator. Okay? So let's try B. So on B, we're going to say, all right, I have a 37-degree angle. I'm going to mark all of my sides. I have my hypotenuse, I have my opposite, and my adjacent. So I'm going to ask myself, what trig function now uses A and H? Because those are the two sides.
Cuh.
Good, it's cuh, and what trig function is that?
A over H.
It's A over H. What trig function? Cosine. So the cosine of 37 equals, we already said A over H, so we're going to have X over 14. This work right here, I need you to write this for me, this setup, okay? From here, the times 14 to get X by itself, you don't necessarily have to write on your homework or your notes, but I want you to write down the trig function you're using and what fraction you wrote here, so then I can find mistakes. So again, we're trying to get X by itself, so we multiplied both sides by 14, and go ahead and type that into your calculator. 14 times the cosine of 37.
Let me type it again.
What's written right there?
I got confused.
Right? And what are we getting?
Round it to
Yep, we need to round that to 11.2. Just the number after the 1 was 5 or bigger. Okay, so on this next problem, we have something a little bit different that happens. Okay? So on this next problem, we have on C, we have 24-degree angle here, and we were given the hypotenuse down here we don't have, and 8 is opposite from 24, and X is adjacent. So what trig function uses O and A? Good, tangent. So we're going to have tangent of 24 degrees is equal to
8 over X.
So this one's a little bit different when we pick out that we're using O and A. You must put O over A, and how we can, remember we can get help with that from our mnemonic device. That TOA tells us the opposite is the numerator and the adjacent is the denominator. On this problem here, if I need to solve this and get X by itself before the calculator can help us. So it's a little bit different because the X is in the denominator. I'm still going to multiply on this first step. So I'm going to show you the long ways here. It's a two-step process to get X by itself. And then I'm going to show you a one-step shortcut. So, but I want you to understand where this comes from. So if we're trying to get X by itself, we're going to multiply both sides by X because we can't work with anything in this denominator. We have to get rid of it. So when I do that, I'm left with now X times the tangent of 24, and I have 8 by itself over here on the right side. And in that second step now, X is attached to tangent by, again, multiplication, So I want x by itself, so now I'm going to move the tangent to the other side by division. So now I'm going to divide by tangent on both sides, okay? It cancels, and I'm left with 8 divided by tangent of 24. So that's what you're going to type into your calculator, 8 divided by tangent of 24. So 8 divided by tangent of 24, we're getting 17.96829, and so that's going to round to 18.0 because the number after in the hundredths place is bigger than 5. Okay? And I do need you to put the .0 to show that we rounded and it wasn't an exact answer. Okay? Now, a moment ago I told you that I wanted to show you the two-step process to get x by itself. Here's the deal. We started with tangent of 24 equals 8 over x, and we typed into our calculator x equals 8 divided by tangent of 24. So what's the only thing that changed, or what changed? The x and the tangent. It's not always tangent that we're going to divide with. It's whenever you set up the problem and the x is in the denominator or the variable is in the denominator. So this is my shortcut for you. So if you have tangent of 24 equals 8 over x, when you have a variable in the denominator, you can swap them and divide. And so to help students remember that, variable in the bottom, swap them and divide. So bottom, swap them, maybe kind of sound the same. Okay, so variable in the bottom, swap them and divide. So you can then just jump straight to x equals 8 divided by tangent of 24. Okay, so again, it's not always the tangent that you divide with. It's when the variable's in the denominator. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do now 2a together and 2c together, and then you're going to try 2b on your own. So let's go ahead and look at 2c. Now, 2a. Let's go to 2a. So the only thing different here is we have two variables. We need to solve for x and y. So again, the first step, we're going to mark our 36-degree angle. We have our sides. We have our opposite side. We have our, we have hypotenuse at 10. X is opposite and y is adjacent. What trig function could we not use on this problem? Tangent, good. We cannot use tangent because that would leave us with an x and a y. So let's solve for x first. What trig function would use x and 10? Sine, fantastic. So the sine of 36 is going to equal O over H, so x over 10. And again, you have a whole number here in the denominator. So to get x by itself, we can multiply the 10 over. And that's what you're going to type in your calculator. 10 times the sine of 36. And so this is one where we're going to have to round. We have 5.877, so this is going to round up to 5.9. And now y. What trig function would we use for y? Cosine, good. We have y and 10. So cosine of 36 is going to equal y over 10. adjacent over hypotenuse. And again, the 10's in the denominator here, so we will multiply both sides by 10. And y would equal 8 point what? 8.1. Since it's your calculator says 8.0901, and so we're going to get 8.1. What questions do you have before we do C? All right, let's go ahead and look at C. So we have x and y that we want to solve for. We're going to start, we have this 37-degree angle. We're going to label our hypotenuse. We're going to label our opposite and our adjacent. So from 37, you have opposite and hypotenuse. We could use what trig function to find y? Sine. Good. We're going to use sine of 37 to find y. So sine of 37 would equal 18 over y. And again, the variables in the bottom, so we're going to swap them. So y equals 18 over the sine of 37. And what would that look like? Calculator time. 18 divided by the sine of 37. I want you to be careful on your answer here. Look at that hundredths place. Is the hundredths place 5 or bigger? It is not. It's 29.909. And so your answer here is 29.9. We will not round up to 30 because the number after that tenths place, the number in the hundredths place is not bigger than 5. All right, and again here solving for y now. Oh, I'm sorry, we already solved for y. We solved for x. So x would need us to, we're going to have to use O and A together. We're going to have to use tangent. So tangent of 37 is 18 over x for TOA. And again, the variables in the bottom, so we're going to swap them and divide. Kendall, question? Okay. Yep. Only if you subtract from 180 and find this angle over here. Okay. If you plugged in your 29.9 right here, you could, I guess, without finding, but that would be a rounded answer, and you're most likely then not going to get a good answer here. Okay, so we have to use tangent with what's given here if you're not going to plug in that 29.9. So what is the value of x? We're going to have 18 divided by tangent of 37. Do you have it? 24 exactly.
24.0.
24.0. So it's 23.88 in our calculator. So we're going to have to round that to 23 point what? 23.9. All right, so I'm going to give you about 2 minutes here. I want you to find both the values for x and y on B. Go ahead and find both x and y on B.
Why are you
All right, let's go ahead and see how you did here. Those of you that got, or so go ahead and double check that you labeled those sides correctly. 8 was your hypotenuse, y was your opposite, x then is your adjacent. And I would have set up, the two equations I set up were cosine of 64 equals x over 8. So I multiplied by 8 on both sides, and I got x is 3.5. And for sine, to find for y, I have sine of 64 equals y over 8, and I got 7.2. So at this time, you're ready to practice 6 questions, and then we will do the SOHCAHTOA worksheet.